Hey, if you're a fan of Van Halen, there was something that's come up in the news recently that we thought would be kind of fun to talk about, because it's a little bit of a polarizing. It's going to be a polarizing thing.
Without
I think.
a doubt.
So tell me a little bit about it. Talk a little bit about
blew
this.
my mind. So I'm kind of on my phone, just kind of trying to stay away from any sort of political news, which is kind of almost impossible nowadays. So music is one of my music and sports are usually where I go to, and I see this article, Alex Van Halen, which we know he's released the book and all that.
Yeah,
and he's talking
it's
about
a great book.
A new album coming out. I'm like, what? And so I'm like, of course, Polar. I'm like scrolling through. I'm like, what the hell? And he's brought up the fact that, it was like an interview from like some Dutch newspaper saying, oh yeah, I'm doing a new album, and I got Steve Lukather. We know that in 5150, the recording studio, there's probably a mountain's worth of awesome recording and noodling, and who knows what Eddie was doing back there. And to have new stuff coming out, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty much how they put together a different kind of truth. That reunion album with David Lee Roth. Hey, I've got all this material.
Stuff.
Let's start working on some of it. So out of that, what's going to happen? I don't know. But Alex brings it up. What do you think? Immediately, I'm like, dude, I got to reach out to you and be like, what do you think about this?
Yeah, and it's an interesting idea, because we hear that there's all kinds of just stuff that was recorded, right. And of course, when he built that studio, it gave him the opportunity to just go crazy, and he could just record all the time.
Sure.
It's funny because when you listen to Ted Templeman's book, he talks about he talks a little bit about this, how Valerie Bertinelli was even like, can you please tell him to come into the house? It was really like
time.
that, because he was constantly out there
whatever,
just playing music. But it's also interesting when Steve Lukather gets involved, and I'm going to read something to you because I found this on Loudwire. But I'm sure everybody watching this channel knows about Loudwire. It's a great source for news related to this stuff. And I found an article. I just thought we'd read a couple of things out of it. First of all, I think that, speaking of politics, that somebody must have passed a law that says Steve Lukather has to be involved with at least 5,000 projects every year, or something like that, because you can't get away from him. Yeah. I mean, not only is he involved with one of the most notorious bands in history, Toto, but when the first time I ever heard of Steve Lukather?
Beat it.
Was no. Believe it or not, it was on a Chet Atkins album.
I think
Chet Atkins did this album called Stay Tuned, and I kind of liked Chet Atkins just because my dad or mom had an old record and I used to listen to him, so I just started buying his stuff when I was younger. And I bought this album called Stay Tuned, and I'm like, who's this Steve Lukather that's playing on here with him? And then ever since then, it's like everywhere you turn, there's Steve Lukather's name.
In Hollywood, they have the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I bet, Steve, there's probably some 7 degrees of Steve.
I have a feeling it's probably more like 3.
Yeah, he's so involved.
Like he's in, somewhere 3 people away from you is Steve Lukather.
You know what? If somebody knows anything about something like that, that would be cool to just kind of see.
That's true.
That guy's got his finger.
Lukather family tree.
Yeah, that guy's involved in so much.
But anyway, to your point,
Steve, call us up. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, exactly.
And explain all the projects that you're on with us.
But to your point, he was the guitarist on the song "Beat It,"
right?
And
all
so
the rhythm parts.
One of the biggest songs in the history of everything ever in the world, on the biggest selling album of all time, was Eddie Van Halen and Steve Lukather.
There you go.
And so it's a natural thing when a news story like this comes up that his name gets, of course, thrown into it, because the quota of Steve Lukather probably this year hadn't been reached yet anyway. And so Alex had to bring him up so I'll read a couple of things out of this. Again, this is on Loudwire, and this is from, let's see here. So it goes, following internet rumors regarding his involvement in a Van Halen-related project, Toto guitarist Steve Lukather has set the record straight. Quote, ever since Alex Van Halen dropped some quotes saying we were going to work together, I think there's a huge misunderstanding, Lukather wrote on Instagram. I will not ever play a guitar note on a Van Halen song ever. And I think that was a little bit of the misunderstanding, like, oh, they're going to finish up some of these songs and Steve's going to come in and play on them. And he's saying, no.
Okay.
That's not what this is all about. Let's see. Online gossip recently spread like wildfire after Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf said Alex Van Halen personally recruited Lukather to help complete unreleased Van Halen material. Quote, Ed and Steve Lukather were very good friends and they often worked together. There is no one who can do this process with me as well as he can, the newspaper quoted Alex as saying.
Okay.
By the way, I knew when I was a kid that they were Dutch. What I didn't know is that when they moved to the United States, they were speaking
they only
that
spoke
language. That's
Dutch.
what they spoke.
Right.
As a kid, I knew that they were from there, but I didn't realize it till I'm listening to his book.
And I can totally relate to that. I, as you know, grew up on Long Island. My parents immigrated to the United States from Uruguay. I did not speak English at all till I went to kindergarten.
Okay.
Zero. Sesame Street kindergarten and knowing some friends, and that was it. I mean, my English was zero.
I remember when Ronald Reagan was shot. I remember the first time I heard Livewire, and I remember the first time I heard you speak Spanish.
Oh, that's
Dude,
crazy.
seriously, man. I walked into your dorm room because I had no idea. And you're talking to your dad, and I'm like,
Yeah.
just like full on going, whoa. What is, who, wait, what? It was weird. It was just a
I'm
weird
sure.
moment. That's why it was
still
one of those
have-
that like,
I mean,
anyway.
people are like, come to my, they're in my office or, hey, someone said you speak Spanish. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, it's like them, I'm sure Alex and them, they might not be as fluent as maybe when they were kids. I'm sure I have my rusty moments. I've tried to keep it up.
Dude,
but I totally get it.
I'm sure you can relate.
I totally relate.
I totally understand that. Okay, so a couple of more things here. In his post to social media, Lukather made it clear he has helped the Van Halen drummer go through unheard material, but his involvement has not included any new playing or recording. Instead, the guitarist, who said he was, quote, honored to even be asked to help, described his role as more like a co-producer or something.
Okay.
And he said, Al asked me to help him go through a ton of unfinished recordings of Al and Ed writing and recording that never saw the light of day.
I would think somebody's got to go through the material. And I think for Alex, I'm surprised Wolfgang isn't like thrown in the mix, but it might be too close to home. So if you have a third party, I can kind of see Steve being somebody to go through the material that isn't going to be like, oh my gosh, that's, I get that. That's my brother playing. Might be too close to home, man. Might be still too fresh. I mean, Alex's book, I wouldn't think of it like that, but okay, Steve's a great, respected Eddie fan, worker, where they've worked on stuff to go through. Let's go through all this material and see what we can maybe do with it, or what to do with it, or how many albums or how many artists have put out unreleased tracks, and from freaking Gene put out From the Vault. You can pay like $1 million, to pad Gene's pockets. Talking about Gene Simmons, to get the vault, all these deep cuts of crap I've written, or maybe good songs. I did not,
My
buy
uncle's a
into
boat.
that.
What was that? What was that one from? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, come on, man. But that's the kind of stuff. Anyway, I thought it was really kind of cool that this is even out there. The fact, that's why I sent it to you. Interesting stuff.
No, I didn't notice it until you made a comment. And you know what's funny? I don't want to belabor this point, but it is interesting that you say that about Wolfgang, because there have been those few things where something like that seems appropriate. And one of those, because look at Jason Bonham, because he picked up and became a really, in his own right, respected drummer, and could play with the guys, and fill in that Led Zeppelin role. Yeah. Because he even played the Kennedy Center. Yeah. Remember, it was in 2000, when was it? 2007, 2008, when Led Zeppelin got back together and played Celebration Day, and Jason Bonham played with Led Zeppelin.
It would be, disrespectful to have anybody else, right?
In a way, yeah. In some way, because it's like if you're going to say Led Zeppelin, having his son somehow is kind of okay. And similarly, Wolfgang, I mean, look, the fact of the matter is that guy is
Good.
awesome. I actually really I like him as a person because he's funny and he's cool and humble.
Sure.
And he is unbelievably
He definitely
talented.
doesn't have that nepotism baby type of thing. At first, when he was like in the band suddenly and he's like replacing Michael Anthony, I'm like, okay.
Me
come
too.
on.
I
I'm
thought the
like,
same thing.
Dude, come on, man. I mean, because I like Michael Anthony. I think he's
I love
hilarious.
Michael Anthony.
But, now he's got his own thing kind of going on, which is like, hey, I'm carving out my own thing. I think that's really pretty cool, and it is really good.
Hey, you've seen the video, the one that where it's all him through the video, where he walks into the studio and he's sitting behind the control board and he's sitting back at the
it's
computer
all him.
and he's playing the guitar.
It's probably a 5150.
It's hysterical. And he is so funny and that tune is good.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like laughing just like, this is cute, this is kind of funny, and then all of a sudden I would go, whoa. And he can sing?
Yeah,
And he
does
can
everything.
play? And he was writing a good song. So getting back to your point, I don't know. I mean, it'd be kind of a cool thing to have Wolfgang step in and if they needed stuff to fill it in.
Of course, right? I mean, going back, how many artists have they taken stuff and kind of pieced it together? I mean, freaking the Beatles just put out a song, leftover, whatever, and they just retooled it.
Yeah.
I mean, with modern technology, you can do a lot of cool stuff still. I mean, and I get that, and maybe, it's only been a year and a half since my father passed away. There's stuff of his that I have not gone through yet. I'm not ready. I would
that makes
assume Alex or Wolfie to going through. I hope it's okay. I'm calling you Wolfie, man. That Wolfgang is, for them to go through it might be too hard. So I think that this whole rumor thing might, of course, blow up. But it put Van Halen all over the news.
Yeah.
And the fact that it is Wildfire, and Steve's like, holy crap, I got to put out a statement because I bet his phone was blowing up.
All of a sudden, it's like ding, 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 ding. Yeah, all over the place. That's
well,
the truth.
It's cool. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys. What do you guys think? That's what I would say. That's out of the cool people that are following our channel. That's kind of the second phase. Like, dude, does Robert know this? What are the people that follow the channel? Our fraternity of rock and roll.
Yeah.
That love Van Halen. Were you like reading this going, what the hell? Because that was my thing. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And who's singing?
Yeah.
Sammy or David?
Yeah, that's funny.
I mean, that's the
a
other
good
part.
question,
Like,
too. Yeah.
well, how's that
that's
all
really
work
interesting.
out? Time will tell.
Hey, so let us know what you think about this, because it is kind of these kind of things can get very polarizing, and it's so interesting to kind of search your feelings about what, especially because these things, it's not important, but it is kind of important. These are the things that mattered so much to us in our formative years. So now, it's interesting to see
and
what
now
you
it's
think
the
about all
legacy
this
piece, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you messing with
exactly
Eddie's,
yeah,
noodling, like, and how you treat that? I mean, we see a lot of people's legacy get screwed up with their estate or with that. I mean, like, if you don't have your affairs in order and you're an artist, I mean, look at Prince. Passes away, has no will. His affairs aren't, dude, his stuff's all skunked up. And I'm not here to say you got to have your affairs in order. You should. Because you're gone, and the people behind that you've left behind sounds like I'm getting on a soapbox here, but I'm not. It's just like, get your crap together. Prince obviously left us, way too soon, but he had none of that dialed in his whole recording studio. He's probably got another plethora of material.
multiple albums probably, yeah.
Right? I mean, so I think to have this kind of done correctly And I think it's really cool that Alex is even kind of like, what do we do with all that? I mean, kind of cool. And I think with Alex at the helm, there is the possibility, because he is so kind of, from what he's done with this book, so respectful to Eddie, that I have a lot of hope that something cool might come out of whatever they go through.
Yeah. So, hey,
amen.
Indeed.
I feel like I'm on a
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
You know,
that was beautiful. Hey, and thank you to Loudwire. For those of you that don't read Loudwire, you should. It's a great thing. So thank you to Loudwire for actually always having such great news stories and great content for us to take a look at. So we really appreciate just posting this for something for us to reference. So thanks to Loudwire. Thank you for watching the channel. Please follow the channel if you're not following already. Leave your comments, like the video, obviously, and of course, share this with other people, because a lot of people are interested in anything related to Van Halen, obviously. And so, with that, have yourself a fantastic day.